What's up, guys? It's Logan Wells here with Scooter Gennett, Jeremy Shelby. Second episode of the podcast coming out here soon. Glad to be down here in Sarasota, Florida. Scoot, start it off. What we got?
Jeremy, thanks for coming on, brother.
Yeah,
Really excited about this. Why don't you start off, walk us through, your life, your story from, a young buck to now 36, father of two, soon to be three.
Yeah.
Congrats on that, by the way.
No,
And now you're running your own company and all that. So just kind of walk us through your story and your path in life and, give our viewers an opportunity to get to know you a little bit.
yeah, I'll give the Cliff Note version. It's
Life has been all over the place, but I'm one of six. So there's 5 boys, 1 girl. Parents have been together since my mom was about 14 years old. So,
That's awesome.
They've been married 40 plus years. So that's what we've seen. That's what we've been accustomed to, is that foundation, that strong foundation of family. I was born in Los Angeles. Pops played for the Los Angeles Dodgers. He's been in baseball. He's been out for about 4 years, but he was in baseball for 40 plus years. So got drafted out of a JUCO out of Tennessee when they had 2 drafts back in the day.
Yeah.
He was first round in the winter draft.
Wow.
And that was our life. It was he would leave in February for spring training and wouldn't be back until, late October, as you know, if you make the playoffs. So growing up, it was all about baseball. It was all about family. It was all about baseball. And it was about us being together. So, we'd be at home in our little leagues, travel ball, and then my pops would be gone. So it was a beautiful life because we were able to experience so much, be a part of so many different cultures. But at the same time, Pops wasn't there to actually see us play. While he's coaching Scooter Gennett, the kids are back home, so we had great coaches growing up. But we also wish that, our pops had that time with us to give us those basics to, help us grow as athletes. So it was a unique space for us to get coached by others, but, when my pops was home, get that guidance. But we had a blessed life, man. Still had some ups and downs. But overall, it was an amazing life. My life was different from my brothers. So my older brother, prospect, Gatorade Player of the Year in Kentucky, drafted very high in the MLB draft, went to UK, was first team all conference. It was the first time that they won the conference in years. My younger brothers, USA ball players, all top prospects.
Wow.
I did not have that path. I was not recruited heavy out of high school, did not go to a big D1 college. I did get drafted out of high school to the San Diego Padres. But it wasn't this path of this guy's going to make it. So my freshman year of high school, diagnosed with Hodgkin's disease, which is a form of cancer in your lymph nodes, form of lymphoma. So right at that moment, I wasn't thinking my life was going to end up like my dad's. I didn't know how it was going to end up, so just a different perspective growing up, but still had a blessed life. Even though I went through those ups and downs, it was just a different space, seeing a healthy family surrounded by a bunch of athletes, having your father, in the limelight as an athlete, as a World Series champion, and then you looking at your life trying to figure out how are you going to, how can you reach those same, expectations that everybody expects you to attain in life. But overall, man, God has been good. Ended up getting drafted, played for the Orioles for a little bit. When I mean a little bit, I mean like a blip. They said, "Come on in, here's your jersey. I need that jersey back. It's time for you to go."
At least you got one, though.
I got one, yeah. But all of that, man, all the ups and downs have taught me so much and have helped me get to where I'm at now. So after I got released from the Orioles, I didn't know what I wanted to do, and as athletes, we all go through that time of what's next, right? Even though I was never highly recruited, I still wanted to be the best. Every time I stepped on that field, I felt like I could play with anybody. So once I got drafted, I wanted to get to the big leagues. So once it's over, it's like, what the heck are you going to do now?
Right.
So fell into nonprofit, working with kids, saw how I could, impact them in a positive way, change their lives, and wanted to do that long term. But had one of my mentors who said, you can also help people that are a lot older than you, or, people that are in more of a professional space as well, financially help them navigate through life, build relationships with them. And he kind of took me in the direction of wealth management, started Merrill Lynch, and one of my mentors said, you need to start your own firm. Didn't know how that was going to be. Didn't know how, I was able to do that, but God is good, man. So we're here now. Elite Life Management has been in business for about 3 years. We've scaled, and we're now a part of HBKS Wealth Advisors, which is an amazing company. But the story's long. So let me stop there before I get on a
The
tangent.
office is beautiful.
Thank you.
Like,
Thank you, man.
first class. Very, like watching, getting to come through here at the beginning, like we talked about earlier, and see what your guys' plan and vision was for it. Like, you guys fulfilled your plan and vision. Like,
we did.
It's a very, very impressive building.
Thank you, man. I mean, you're at Merrill Lynch and you see this traditional way of doing business, especially being a minority, you just feel out of place, right? Everybody's wearing a suit and tie. You're on the 11th floor of this tall skyscraper building downtown, and you just feel out of place, especially if you didn't have the same background as the other financial advisors or the other clients that you're servicing. So with this place, we wanted you to walk in and say, this is for me. I feel comfortable. Don't feel like I need a tie. Wear a tie if you want to, wear a suit if you want to, but you're not going to feel that pressure of who do I need to be? Who do I need to impress when I walk through these doors? And I feel like, we were able to accomplish that because I want to show up for work every day and feel like I can be myself
For sure.
and feel like I can be the best me, for myself and for my clients. So that was the goal, man. So I'm glad you like it, brother.
Let's dive a little deeper with the beating cancer, that fight. I can't imagine being a freshman in high school and going through something like that. I mean, let's dive in deeper into that. And for me, it's, to go through that, to beat it, to, keep fighting. That, to me, that's resiliency. Like, where does that come from? Does that come from the family? Is that something that was instilled in you as a youngin', or was it, or is that just, you in your heart?
I think it's all of that, right? It's where you come from. It's who helped you get there. But who said that? Mike Tyson. You're not ready until you get punched in the mouth, right. And then you got to figure out what's next, right? So I had that strong foundation of faith from my parents, especially from my mom. She taught us that it's God first. You're not going to be perfect, but when you're in that low place, you lean on Him, right? And I was only 13 and a half, 14, so I'd never been tested with my faith at that point in my life. But when that happened, I immediately, went to my mom first and was like, what the heck is going on? And she pivoted and just said, look, I'm not going through this. I can't feel the pain that you feel. It's time for you to go straight to God and build up that relationship, build up that authentic, intimate relationship of you leaning on Him and calling on Him for that help and that support. And that's what I did. She gave me some anointing oil. And she said, start reading Proverbs. And Proverbs in the book of in the Bible, it's all about wisdom, right? So at the age of 13 and a half and 14, I'm focused in on how to be wise, and how to navigate this life in a way where I can understand, some of the adversity that I'm facing. And it immediately matured me, right? It gave me a new perspective. While everybody else is in high school, going to parties, enjoying that social experience, I'm fighting for my life, and that will do something to you, and I think about this all the time, man. We as people we can hide what we're going through, especially if it's mental or if it's emotional or if it's in your home, if it's in your marriage, even if it's in your job. When people look at you, they might not see that, right? But when you have cancer, it's physical. You can't hide it. I was bald. I looked sick. I gained a whole bunch of weight. So when you saw me, you knew that there was something wrong with me. So every day I had to look in the mirror, not recognize myself, but say, how am I going to carry myself today? Right? How am I going to, show my family that I'm okay? Right? How can I prove to all my peers that I'm the same dude that I was before I was diagnosed with cancer? And that was my way of going about life. Like, I still went to all my basketball practices, still went to all my baseball practices, never stopped playing any other sports. I was struggling, right, physically, but man, it was a little bit of pride. Like, I'm not going to let you see or try to treat me like I'm this sick kid, right? And it just it was a fight, but it was more of a fight of like, don't look at me as being that vulnerable, right? I'm still the same. I'm the same guy. And I think through that fight of trying to find out who you are when you don't have that strength, it's powerful, man. And leaning on God to just give you that foundation and that support, it changed my life forever. So now I have that And that's what carries me. Whenever I'm in those valleys, man, I go back to that. And once you overcome something and you put all of your strength and confidence, in God, then that next, adversity that you face is still tough, but it gets a little bit easier.
You've been there, done that.
You've been there, done that. You have that survival kit. You now understand, okay, how did I get through that last time? Right. Even though it looks completely different, where did I go to? What did I do? That's why with a lot of people, they fall in these valleys for so long because they're running to the same thing, back to the same thing constantly. Right. And it's not the right place that they should be or the right person that they should be talking to. So, but I thank my parents for that, man, especially my mom.
Yeah, God bless Mama Michelle. Shout out to Mama Michelle.
Shout out to Mama Michelle's, man.
Yeah, awesome. And you're very blessed to have, that. A lot of people they don't have that at
That's
home.
right.
They got
That's right.
And that's where, I think all of us here in this room, we those kids, those younger, those youngins out there that don't have that support.
Yeah,
it's like that's where somebody's got to step up.
Somebody.
Somebody in the community. Obviously you've done a lot of good stuff in the community. Kind of came up doing Boys and Girls Club.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. So yeah.
Talk a little bit about that and how before you got to Merrill Lynch, you started your wealth management side. So talk a little bit about the philanthropic side. Yeah.
And man, that's a great point that you made, that people can forget, having that foundation, having two parents at home, there's a lot of people that didn't have that. But I will say that, there's a lot of people out there that are willing to help and willing to step up and make up for that person that's not in your life. Right. After I got released from the Orioles, I did not know what I wanted to do. I just started, being a substitute teacher. I could make my own hours, right? I could choose to work if I wanted to work and choose to not work if I didn't want to work.
What's your favorite subject to teach?
I got thrown into biology.
Okay.
Which was crazy because I'd only been 2 years out of college, about 2.5. So I was taking biology 101, so it was fresh, right? So I was a long-term sub at a school back in Kentucky called Henry Clay High School. One of my good friends, his dad was a principal. So they brought me in. Teacher got into some trouble and they're like, look, we need you from February all the way to the end of the school year.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like,
permanent role.
Yeah, I'm like, this is no longer a substitute teacher. Right. I'm a teacher, man. I was like, this was crazy. But I had a couple of classes where, the kids, some of them were those kids that didn't have the parents at home, right? So when they were at school, some of them didn't know how to act. They would act out a lot. And that was my last period. And there was one day where I needed to get a sub for me, who was a sub, right? So sub for a sub. Just for the last period of the day, I had a doctor's appointment. Put the paperwork in, but the substitute teacher never showed up. And this was my baddest class. Last period of the day. And these were my kids. I love those kids, but they were wilding, right? So they
go home. Too.
Yeah. Everybody's ready to go home. They show up. There's no teacher. I left the work for the substitute teacher back on my desk with instructions, how, everything to do. And one of the toughest kids in the class that I had so much trouble with, he actually stood up, went to the back, looked at my desk, found the instructions. When another teacher came in and was like, what's going on in here? And they're like, there's no one here. Mr. Shelby's not here. But he went to the class and he was like, I want to make sure Mr. Jeremy doesn't get in trouble. I don't know where he's at. He made sure everybody was doing their work. So when that teacher came in to check on them, they were all focused in doing the assignment. And when I came back, there were like 3 teachers that came up to me. They were like, we got to tell you the story of what happened. And when they told me the student who was the leader of all of that, they were like, I think this is due to the relationships that you have with these kids. That changed my life, man. I was like, wow, this is way bigger than just being a substitute teacher, right? And so then I thought about teaching, but, life took me in a different direction. Ended up moving to Florida with my wife and growing a family, but I still wanted that connection with the community, that connection with the kids, and try to recreate that moment. Right. That's what it was about. How can I recreate that moment and devote my time, my energy to these kids to the point where something changes within them to where they're like, you know what? I'm not going to act the way that I used to act. I'm going to switch it up because I've been taught maybe I should do this. Right. And so, Boys and Girls Club was that for me. It's crazy, man. One of my good friends was the owner of the Lexington Legends. You remember Astros team, Royals minor league team. I think they were single A or double A.
Definitely heard of him. I didn't
Yeah.
playing that.
He might not
league.
play for. So he owned the stadium, his family, and he was heavy in philanthropy and everything. And me and him were close friends, and we were actually going to start some community centers. We were going to take over the community center and bring in a program similar to Boys and Girls Club, after school care, financial literacy, and to get them ready for life. Right. I just got married, and my wife was like, I do not want to be in Kentucky long term. So that's why we ended up moving to Florida. But that same concept of building that community, I actually took it to Boys and Girls Club when I was applying for the job of one of the director roles within their teen program, and just said, look, I've already been working on this.
Right.
If you allow me to implement this, I really think that it's going to be powerful to this community. And that's what got me the job. And that's what I did, man. And they went from having like 4 teens that would stay for their extended nights and after school, because everybody looked at Boys and Girls Club like it's for boys and girls, right? It's not for teens.
Right.
And we had Bayshore High School right across the street from the club. And it was my job to bring the teens to the club.
Yeah.
That's a tough job, man. At that age, to try to teach them, discipline them, and give them a safe place, right? When they want to do their own thing. But it changed everything for me, because when you learn how to help them, you learn how to help everybody, So that journey, started off in Manatee County, and then actually went over to Boys and Girls Club of Sarasota County too, and was their program director. And now I've got kids. One of my kids, I just texted him this morning. He's now becoming a financial advisor.
Nice.
Just passed his Series 66, passed his Series 7, passed his SIE. And he watched my journey leaving Boys and Girls Club, going to Merrill Lynch. And he was like, I want to do the same thing. And he's on his way right now. So it's like, that's recreating that moment, right? So it was amazing, man. It was a blessing. I'm on the board of both of those organizations now, trying to recreate that moment again at a different level, right? So
That's awesome.
Yeah, that job was everything, man. Everything.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
really good stuff. Let's shift a little bit. The point of this, well, at least for me and Logan, of this podcast is, number one, how do we help the young athlete, right? How do we give them advice? And not only them, they're the parents. You can't forget about that. Obviously, we're all parents now. We're starting to, as our kids get older, we're starting to realize, like, wow, like, this is real.
It's real.
I mean, you care. If you're a good parent, you're going to care. Obviously about your kid, but also what they do.
Yeah.
What advice would you give a young athlete that's trying to obviously make it to the next level, but what advice would you give them to kind of separate themselves from the pack?
Yeah.
To get noticed, get seen.
Yeah. Great question. And for me, man, just through, like I said, man, I was never the top recruit, right? I was never, I had a couple of really good years, but I was never that guy. I was never that dude, right? A couple of years I was, but for me, the journey was understanding what success actually is, identifying what success is. Growing up, success for me was being a professional athlete. That's it. It was being a professional baseball player, achieving that goal. That was my only vision of success, right? Now looking back as a parent, as a business owner, right? Getting drafted by a couple of teams, bro, success is so many different things, right? It's so many different things. It's the birth of my first child and the second child, soon to be the third, right? It's purchasing our first home as a family. It's, but growing up, it was only baseball. So what I would challenge my parents and these young athletes is, do not let your definition of success be inside this small little box of only one thing. Because even if you become that professional athlete, let's say you have a Hall of Fame career like a Derek Jeter. Bro, Derek Jeter's still in the prime of his life.
For sure.
Right now, right? He's got his family, which he didn't have while he was playing. So he's in a whole different position right now. I guarantee you, if you ask him what his success is right now, it's his family, right? So it's like, as athletes, man, I was so narrow-minded when it came to being successful. I had one goal. That's it. Being a Major League Baseball player. And when it didn't happen, my whole life changed in a negative way, in some ways, because that's all I thought about, right? But there were other thoughts that I had about what else I could do as I got older. So I would start encouraging these young ball players. Yes, keep them focused on the game. Let them focus on, their craft and be the best players ever. But don't let them be so limited to thinking that the only way to make it in life is if they're a professional athlete. Because as a professional athlete, you can tell them too, right? You're in your early 30s. You still have so many years left in life that will be a successful moment, but it's not going to be your success, right?
I like that.
But that's tough to tell a young kid who is trying and striving to be the best that they can be. But now, man, with social media, with all of these entrepreneurs that have done so well, creating these ideas, the inventions that we've seen made, there's so many ways that we can become successful. NIL, different things that bring success. But some people think success is money, success is this. We have to really teach these kids identity, right? Purpose is huge, right? Because you can be successful and not have an identity and not have purpose. So then when you reach what you've been striving for, you're still empty. Mm-hmm. You could be a Hall of Famer, professional athlete, have all the money in the world and be a shell, completely empty. So if we can start encouraging these young athletes, building up their identity, giving them vision, being very strategic about our approach on and off the field, then we're equipping them for life, right? And that's what a coach is, right? Mm-hmm. We're a coach of the sport, but we're also a coach of these kids' lives, which, I've watched you do as well from afar. And it's like, when you step beyond that let's not talk about performance today. You know what I mean? Let's talk about purpose today. Let me tell you a story about something that happened in my life when I wasn't a ball player, when I was off the field, how I navigated through that. Because when they're in a situation that they just went 0 for 3 with a hat trick or whatever, they may think back on that story versus thinking back on when you were in the cage trying to get their swing right, and they still don't have that feel, and then they have another bad game. But as we know in baseball, it's a lot more mental than it is physical, right? So if we can keep them in that good mental space, not only will they perform better, but I think the bounce back will be better as they grow, whether that's a career as an athlete or a career as whatever it is, give them that purpose.
I like that. So really exposing them to other stuff other than just the sport that they're playing. Mm-hmm. And I think it's easy for parents and coaches just to hone in on, okay, we're at the baseball field, we're going to just work on baseball. And it's like, you're talking about like building them up in other ways and exposing them to other things to where if I went 0 for 4, it's not the end of the world.
It's not the end of the world. But not like overcomplicating their life with multiple activities and multiple ideas, but really just telling them that the world is bigger than this game, right? Because some of these kids, especially being in Florida, you play year round. Mm-hmm. It's a commitment, right?
Yeah, it's a lot.
So you can't sit down in front of these kids and say, hey, I need you here X amount of days out of the month, but I'm also going to introduce you to baking and being this and being that. It might be too much for that young athlete. Right. But if we give them that foundation, right, that eternal foundation, whether that's the spirit or that's confidence, then that can, translate into anything, right? So it's more of that wisdom, those man-to-man talks that, that mentorship, not activity, but more of just conversation, relationship, right?
How do we fill the cup up?
Yes. Fill up that cup, because as we said, there's some people that didn't have that foundation or don't have that foundation at home. So fill up that cup, because the people who don't have that foundation or have a hole in their confidence or are insecure, you better believe they're filling all of that up with their skills or whatever in the game, right? And when they fill it all up in the game and they don't do well, then they have nothing left, right? So we have to fill that up with that relationship, with that confidence, and with that purpose, so that when the game doesn't work out or they have a bad game, they have something to fall back on. And
which
then
most games,
is a game of failure, man.
Especially,
man, the craziest game I got. This is why I love baseball, because I had a game like this. This was when I was at Grambling State. We ended up winning the championship in 2010. We were playing Texas Southern, I think, and I went 2 for 5, 2 home runs and 3 strikeouts.
There you go.
And at the end of the game, I think we won that game. But bro, I was pissed off.
Yeah.
Because
Hat trick
with two home runs. I didn't know whether to be hyped or whether to be disgusted that I struck out 3 times. But that's the type of game that baseball is. It's like, or a perfect line drive, right?
Yeah.
Bro, you're out. You know, you hit it right to the. It's such a golf has that.
Bat, you hit a sprinkler head, hit a
And
guy's shoulder, and you get a hit.
It's a different type of game, but it's life though, right? It's very similar to the game of life. That's why when we're coaching these kids, if we use that life application, right, and they're not looking at it as a game, but they're looking at it as how can I learn from this? Yeah. Then we're really coaching them because they might not see an 0 for 3 as a bad game. They might see it as a learning experience, and then they're analyzing that at bat to see what they could do better instead of just punishing themselves. So I put a lot of pressure on myself growing up because of the family that I came from. Right. I had a cousin who, you played against Josh, right? So, and his brother, both of his brothers were great athletes. I was surrounded by these amazing athletes, and it was all about how can I keep up?
Yeah, that's the expectation.
That's the expectation, man. For the Shelby family, and which is the Harrison, the Shelby family, it's all Shelbys. It's like, how can we be the best? And when we all get together, you best believe that's what we're talking about, right? Yeah. Or we're all at each other's games, supporting each other, and everybody in that family is trying to figure out who's going to be the guy, right? Or are we all going to be the guys? Are we going to be that, the Molinas, right? Mm-hmm. That story always stood out to me, that all of them were so great, and they all made it to that level, and they all did well. That, it wasn't the Shelby story, but man, the pressure was still there. Yeah. So I wish I had, a different perspective growing up, and I just enjoyed the game because it didn't click for me until very late in my career. Actually, the year that I got drafted out of Grambling State, that was the most fun that I ever had playing. And I just was like, this is my junior year. It was my senior year. I was like, I got nothing left. They're not going to give me anything once I get drafted. I'm playing this game the way I want to play. I wanted to win a championship. I set goals for myself, but I also wanted to have fun. Yeah. And if I would have had that same approach growing up, I would have enjoyed the game of baseball a little bit more, but it was always a job to me.
For me, you hit a couple of good points there. Other than the sport, how do we, get involved with other things in our life? And for me, I didn't realize how important it was till I was in like a really bad slump. And I was like, you know what? Like, I'm so in my own head, like, man, I got to get a hit, forcing it. It just never happens, right? When you're forcing it. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to totally distract myself from what I got going on and devote all my attention to my teammates. So like, I was like the cheerleader. I was like, hey man, like, what do you need? Can I get you some water? Like it was coming from a selfish place of like, I'm trying to get out of this slump. So I'm just going to do whatever I can. And then I started feeling like, wow, like I'm helping my team out. Mm-hmm. I'm distracting myself from bad thoughts. And now I'm starting to hit. And like from that point on, I was like, okay, whenever I get in my own head, boom, I'm just like, how do I help this
focus on someone else?
And I think people do that in other ways, but once you get that feeling, whether it's in the community and you're helping out, you're doing stuff for people, you got players that you've coached that now you're helping, in other ways, not just baseball. I feel like once you feel that, there's something like obviously good about it, but like you can get addicted to it.
Yeah, you can.
And it's like a healthy addiction. Like I want to help.
Sure.
I mean, what's bad about helping people?
That's right.
And I feel like for me, any young athletes out there, like that's an easy place to start. Is how do I help my team? How do I help maybe my parents? Instead of them doing your laundry, maybe, hey, can I help them do laundry? Just distracting yourself from what's going on. And these kids have a lot more distractions than we had growing up.
You better believe it.
I think it's a very healthy way to get through that, is to just help somebody else out.
And what you're talking about is the power of serving, right? Mm-hmm. Serving has so many benefits of just serving others. And you hit it on the head, man. Like trying to serve yourself and get yourself in the better position that you immediately just went to serving others. And that's biblical too, man. Put others before you, and then the blessings will start coming, right? Then the blessings will start coming. And that's why I love, what's got us here. All of my jobs before the Merrill Lynch job and before, being at Elite Life Management, which people would consider a big boy job, all those jobs were serving. I was serving the community. I was serving those kids. And through service, I started to understand my purpose, right? And so then I just prayed, Lord, if you can trust me with this, trust me with a little bit more. And it's the same thing, man. You're serving your teammates, and then you begin to perform, right? And the power of serving is everything. So yeah,
That's pretty incredible.
yeah.
Hey, so
Yeah.
so basically, you just brought up a minute ago, NIL deals. So I kind of
Mhm.
talked about that to a certain degree. So my question with you is we've all been at different levels, varieties of this game.
Yeah.
Me being in the college atmosphere a lot right
Mhm.
now, one of the big questions I get a lot is NILs.
Yeah.
How's it being handled?
Yeah.
What is your thoughts with it? At what point does a player need to start looking into receiving help?
Mhm.
Question, comments, concerns. What do you
Mhm.
have, I guess, with
Yeah.
the NIL?
Yeah, man. First of all, man, kudos to all of the athletes, right? All of the collegiate athletes that had to serve and play and never got a dime,
Mhm.
right? But fought for the right to get paid or get, some type of benefits for their name, image, and likeness, because it's a multi-billion-dollar industry that's built on the players, right? That actually is bringing in more tuition to these schools because of the performance of their sports teams. And it is being pushed. If you look at a football game, what do you see on the commercials? You see commercials for that school, right? If you look in the student center, you got doctors, lawyers, all there painting their body, cheering on the athletes.
Right.
But those athletes are out there grinding, struggling. Some of them might not even make it to the next level, but they've helped that school benefit so much. So I'm very happy that it's happening.
Mhm.
But with all that being said, it is the wild, wild west right now. There are so many deals taking place right now that are exploiting or still taking advantage of these athletes. And it's tough to blame anybody, right? It's tough to blame anybody. There still needs to be some limitations on how it's given, and the process, right? I love that it's going on, but let's focus on the process. So if we zone in on the athletes right now, how can you equip yourself and be ready? And this is starting as early as high school, right? So how can you be prepared? And, a lot of people will say you need to get help immediately. You need to bring someone in. That's true, but you need to bring the right person in, right? You just don't, ask anybody for help. And, that's the world that we kind of navigate in. It's like, how can we do this and do what's right for that kid? And it's very tough to do what's right for that kid if you've never been in that position before, or if you don't understand the sport, or you don't understand the business of the sport, right? How can you serve that kid and their family? So that's the first thing, is relationship. Build that relationship up. That person, that kid, that family, they need to build a relationship with a professional and go through that vetting process of who is this person? How can they help me? What's their process of help? And who's surrounding them to help my kid, right? Like I said, man, it's a wild place. I was reading an article the other day. Ryan and I were talking about it, a young football player that had a great deal, but now he's going to lose X percent of his earnings, career earnings in the NFL for the rest of his career. Based off of college.
Right.
For the rest of his career, he's got to give X percent, to this company that gave him, I think it was only $300,000. He's going to be a multimillionaire as an athlete, but X amount is going to that because he didn't have the right person in his corner to read through, the contract and tell him, hey, this is a bet on your future performance, but it might not be the right bet that you want to make. And if they're willing to give you that, maybe somebody else is willing to give you that within a better, contractual agreement. So it's all about the support. It's all about seeking help, but it's about finding the right person that can help you and that's not in it for, what they can get. They're really in there to service the athletes, to service their families. And it's always best if they've been in that position before, because they can navigate that a little better. But the key to that too is, just because you're an ex-athlete does not mean that you're going to be the best agent, does not mean that you're going to be the best financial advisor. It also doesn't mean you're going to be the best coach or the best GM. We've seen that. We've seen great athletes that weren't good coaches.
Cheater.
Yeah, I didn't want to blast them. He's doing pretty good at the announcing. It's gonna take him a while, but just because you're great at this does not mean you'll be great at that. And I realized that, man, when I started Elite Life Management, I had I had a gift with people and I loved people, and a gift with relationships because I love relationships. But now, in order to service my clients, I need to surround myself with the right team that can give my clients everything that they need and that they deserve, right? So some players find a guy who they love because the relationship is strong, but everything outside of that relationship is not where they need to be, right? They don't have the bandwidth to support the growth of his career. So yes, it's finding the support, but it's finding the right support. And it's always, in our business, I break it down in two ways. It's relationship driven, and then there's, the transaction and the performance of it all, right? You got to have both of those. If you only have one that does a great job, but there's no relationship, there's going to be some type of fall off down the line,
Right.
Where the market gets volatile or whatever, you don't have that connection, or your contract gets messed up, or your career gets messed up. If you don't have that relationship and it's only transactional, they're going to be gone. Or if it's only built on a strong relationship and you need some extra services and they can't provide that, it's going to get rocky. So you have to have both of those. And if that professional doesn't have both of those, then you need to just kind of bring some more people to the table and make sure that you can get that right support.
I like that. I mean, obviously the relationship, but being able to actually fulfill your job and your duty as an agent or an advisor. And for me, I mean, I had a few people come in the house and kind of give their spiel of like why I should go with them as an agent, this and that. And I've always been pretty good at like reading, I guess you could say, the room. But like my main thing was, I'm not going to go with a guy that's telling me everything I want to hear.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Like, can't have a yes man.
Right. I need somebody that's going to tell me like, hey, like you're not going to be a top pick. You're going to have to work your ass off, like what I need to hear. And I feel like a lot of athletes, it's easier to go with like, oh, like that's what I want to hear.
Yeah, he's
like,
got
like that. I want to keep this guy around. The guy that comes in and he's honest, like really trying to help you.
Yeah.
But parents are huge when it comes to that. So like parents out there, players listening in, it's not what you want to hear. Don't go with what you want to hear. Go with what you need to hear and what you need at that moment. And I feel like that's kind of where you're getting at is finding somebody that you trust, but also that can actually fulfill their duty as an agent or an advisor.
It's got to be an authentic, genuine relationship and someone who's going to tell you the truth. But it goes beyond truth. After I tell you the truth, I need to be able to fulfill what I told you, right? But back to the NIL, there's layers to that, right? Yeah. Some guys, there was a football team, they all got trucks. They got cars. You're still getting taxed on that, right? Yeah. A lot of these players don't understand the tax implications of these NIL deals, right? And in the next, 3 to 4 years, we're going to see a lot of players that, we're starting to see the stories now of, oh man, now I'm seeing the ramifications of that contract that I signed, right? Now that I'm in, the NFL or the NBA or the MLB, I'm starting to see that I got to pay some of that back. I didn't read the fine print at the time. I just wanted the money, or I wanted the car, or I wanted
whatever. It's already spent, and
it's
the
already,
IRS comes. And
exactly.
You're like, well, I got a car.
Yeah, man. So now, and I've talked to some of the agents in the game now, and just about how we can work together. And a lot of them are telling me, Jeremy, these guys are getting advisors before they get the agent, because it is now wealth management, right? There's money being shared, there's money being given, and sometimes an agent can't navigate that conversation as well as an advisor can navigate that conversation. So you're going to see a lot of what you've seen, but you're going to see another level of advisors and agents working closely together. But even us as a team, we're really trying to focus in on how can we it goes beyond financial literacy. Now it's a strategic game plan of you need to be prepared for this. But at the end of the day, you just need to have a professional that's going to do the due diligence and read through a contract and see what you're obligated to do over X amount of years, right? And take care of that player instead of that player coming to you and saying, yo, I need this money right now, and I'm going to sign it regardless. You might be in that situation where the player is going to do it, whether you tell them not to, that's unfortunate. But if there are players out there, which there are, that are signing these contracts and nobody's even looking over them just because they want the cash, that's unfortunate. And that's what I would love, and that's one of our goals here as a firm is to really dive in and to help educate these guys, and to build that relationship. And relationship comes trust, right? They're not even going to listen to you if they don't know you, if they don't trust you, right? But once you get that trust, then you got to service them.
Yeah.
And you can't service them if you don't have the service and the people behind you.
Like, I know you're just kind of elite life and how it works. It's a big network, right? It's a lot of different people working together for the same goal, right? It's like you got your tax guy, you got your attorneys, you got your insurance, all of that. Talk a little bit about that, about what you guys do that might be different, and that's what drew me in. But fill us in a little bit about what kind of separates you guys from the norm. Yeah,
I mean, the vision of Elite Life from the beginning was to be a one-stop shop for our clients, to be a family office, right? Because I saw so many of my clients, even in Merrill Lynch, or athletes who had 20 different people, that they had to call, or that were calling them, that either being solicited or that they needed for different services, right? So I wanted to figure out a way where we could be the one place that our clients could come here and we could provide those answers, even though behind the scenes we're working with that big old web, that network. And so when we first opened, that was the goal, but I quickly saw that we needed to bring in some more service. And by the grace of God, man, I ran into one of my partners now, Dean Picarillos. Shout out to you, brother. But we wanted to figure out a way where we could work collectively with one of the top accounting firms in the nation, which had a wealth management arm, and which is called an RIA, and they're one of the top RIAs in the nation. So how could they come in, bring us in to where we could support these niche markets, but then they could support us, right? And honestly, man, that's when the game changed. It's like we went from having these great relationships with our clients to having great service. And I'd say that's what differentiates us from anybody, because we're one of the few RIAs that have an accounting arm. So we're sitting on the same side of the table as the client with the CPAs, which handle the taxes. So imagine if your financial advisor and your accountant are all talking on how to mitigate these tax consequences that you would face with an NIL deal, right? You're not having to reach out and figure out who the accountant is. We're on the same side. This is my partner, right? So we're going to figure out what's best for our clients. So really creating that army of service to where, not only do you have that great relationship, but that they have everything that it takes to get the job done. It could be a $500,000 client, or it could be a $200 million client. I want to be able to bring them in and say, we can service you. But not only that, like you said, having that relationship to be honest with them, to tell them the truth. But most importantly, I think a lot of our success comes from knowing what's going on in our clients' lives. And that's because we're a part of their life, right? A lot of the reviews that I have with my clients, I already know what's going on because I was with them recently, right? Or we spent some time together, and you have to be aware of what's motivating the goals of your clients, or help create those goals for your clients because you're getting to know them, whether that's building a family, or that's starting a business, or that's phasing out of whatever profession they're in, or that's starting a new profession. The only way you can truly service them is understanding who they are as a person. Because if it's all built on transactions, you don't really know somebody's true motivations, right? So you're going to get it wrong if you're just bringing them numbers. All of our numbers that we have in our lives, they're all built around goals. They're all built around purpose, whether that's family, or that's wanting to buy a new house or buy that boat. There's something in your life that you're trying to get, or you're trying to keep. And if I can understand that, then I can put forth a better plan. And I mean, that's really what's allowed us to continue to grow. But it's at the same time, man, people say, why Elite Life Management? I say, why you? We get to choose our clients the same way our clients get to choose us. And it works the best when our clients want to work with us and we want to work with them, because it is a lifelong family type bond, intimate relationship. With my clients, I know everything that's going on in their lives, every dollar that's spent, all of their financial goals, not only for them, but for their kids, and some of them for their kids, right? We're talking about multi-generational wealth, right? So in order to help plan for that, you got to have some deep conversations and some tough conversations. And it works the best when I will do anything on my job to work for you, and you'll do anything, to stay committed to the relationship that we have with our company, man. And I think we're blessed to have some amazing clients, to where I think if we put all of our clients in the same room, there'd just be so much synergy, and there'd be new relationships that were built, right? And good things, it would bear good fruit.
Right.
And I had an advisor tell me years ago, he was like, man, if you look at your book of business, it will always be a reflection of who you are as a person.
Mhm.
If you got crazy clients, it might be because you got a little crazy side to you. Right. So it's like, I'm very proud of the clients that we have, because I think that it reflects, who I am as a person.
Right.
And that's what we want to keep. We want to keep just great clients who I can help for the rest of our lives. And I'm young, man. I'm only 36. I plan to be in this game until, I'm in my late 60s, which is also great with the planning aspect of it. I will actually be there to possibly service your kids or your kids' kids.
That's awesome.
Well, we all have obviously a great relationship in the room, and it's I have friends, I'm sure we all do, that have not been so fortunate when it comes to dealing with people like yourself, right?
Yeah,
And it's
man.
I'm not gonna put any names on, I'm not gonna go to
Yeah.
that degree, but it's like they've had TV shows based off of some of these guys.
You better believe
ESPN
it.
broke, a
Mhm.
few of those things have gone down. So
Yep.
it's like back to the giving knowledge and helping
Mhm.
out with the people that are viewing. Like I think our
Mhm.
main goal with all this too is, now that we have you, now that you're around, how do we make sure our friends, our
Yeah.
family members, how do they get in touch with you?
Yeah.
How do they track you down? If they're interested in not even a professional athlete, you deal with
Mhm.
all aspects of the world,
yeah,
right? So it's like, how does a friend of Scooter Gennett, a friend of Logan Wells, how do they get in
Mhm.
touch with you? How do they
Yeah.
find you?
Well, first of all, if they know either one of you guys know to, either send them my personal cell phone number, which I won't put that on there.
Yeah.
But at
What is it,
Instagram,
941?
it's 859, actually. I still got that bluegrass. Shout out
Okay.
to, I'm paying homage to Kentucky, man. But on Instagram, it's at Elite Lifer. I'm kind of active on Instagram. I need to improve on that. But I'm I would love to just take you out to lunch, just get to know you. But at Elite Lifer on Instagram, DM me, man. Reach out to me. Let's talk. My email is jeremyshelby@me.com. It's that simple. It's my name, @me.com. That's my personal email. So if you need help with anything, just reach out to me. I think that's my purpose in life, is to serve. That's where I get all of my joy, is helping others. But also our company, it's at Elite Life Team. That's our IG. But we've got so much work to do, man. We're still a baby of a company. But just help us get the word out, and we just want to, I tell people, take advantage of it, man. Figure out ways that I can help and I can support you, and challenge me. And I've got one of my clients, he challenges me. And I love it, man, because it stretches me as a person, right? It's like, he's like, yo, he hit me up the other day. This was 2 days before the World Series. This is a close friend of mine too, but he's also a client. He's like, yo, my daughter's in Phoenix. You need to get her in the World Series. And I'm like, bro, World Series is in 2 days, my brother. I said, all right, yeah, I said, yeah, thanks for the heads up. But his daughter was at the World Series, man. She had an amazing time. But he challenged me, and I was like, okay, let's figure out how I can make this happen. So that's what I like to do for my clients: figure out a way that I can make things happen for them. And
So if you want to go to the World Series,
hey, look, that was like I said, my close friend, and
with generational wealth.
Generational. I'm talking generational. Yeah, I made it happen for him. But I just want to help others, man, especially athletes who are trying to navigate that. I've been there. My whole family has been there. So some of us successfully, some of us unsuccessfully, but in a way, it was all purpose driven, and it was all success. If you look back at it,
Well, shout out to the Spot Athletic Center. If you're looking to become a better athlete, Palmetto, Florida, come see us. Bay Area Pro. We also have the show scout teams. And the big thing behind it too, your dad gave me the okay with this. You can get $10 off any bat by using the promo code TURKEY at show-bats.com. So make sure you guys check out Show Bats. They're the best bat company in the world. From there, hey, another successful podcast, episode 2. Scooter Gennett, Jeremy Shelby.
Thank y'all for having me.
Appreciate it. It's a pleasure.
Appreciate y'all.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, man.
Make sure you guys check out Elite Life Management. Follow them on social media.
We out.